Streaming 24/7.
24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana. Oh, Afrika nakupenda sana.
Welcome to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. I am your host. We thank you for joining us this afternoon. We surely come to you every Sunday from 4 o'clock up until 5 o'clock. This is the show where we talk to women and anyone who has got interest, but our focus is on women, to empower women with information so that they can be intentional with the choices they make in life, with decisions that they make that affects them, their loved ones, and everyone around them, so that they can become better women. Today, as I come to you, we are excited to have you because I am not alone as I always do. I have with me a wonderful woman, a professional, because today we want to talk on the impact that us as human beings, more especially us as mothers, because we are the managers of our households, the effects of what we do to the environment, what will it be to us? So we're going to be talking on the environment, the impact that human beings have on the environment, and how we can minimize the impact, and what is it that we can do to make sure that our actions do not impact the environment negatively. Why we are doing this show today, being the month of June, as we started the month, we are aware that this is a great month, a month in which, as a country, we commemorate the June 16 uprisings. As we continue to celebrate our young people, because our young people are the future. But again, we realize that globally, in the month of June, that is a month where we bring along environmental awareness. So as prudent women, as we say, we are intentional about our actions. We are intentional on our decisions. We felt it prudent that we bring this show to you because the environment, how we react to the environment, has got an impact into the future, as much as what we do to our youth has got an impact to the future. So we do not want to give an environment that is messed up, but we want to give an environment which our children will be proud of. Our great-grandchildren will look back and say, our forefathers were very responsible on how they conducted themselves around the environment. So basically, that's what the show is all about. I invite you, please come sit down with us, converse with us, because after this show, you'll never be the same. I know I also did not know much about the environment, but as I was preparing for this show, I went through a lot of content, which I realized that it is because we do not know. That's why we act the way we do. But with information, we'll start to act responsibly. And as I said, I have a wonderful woman who's joining us, and Abigail. I have with me Mrs. Rosemary Mashele. Mrs. Rosemary Mashele is an environmental assessment practitioner. She comes to us as a professional within the environmental space. Says Rosemary, we are excited to have you this afternoon as Prudent Woman because we know we'll never be the same. As you greet the audience, maybe just tell us what an environmental assessment practitioner does and what is it that you represent?
Okay, thank you so much, Sister RHULANI. Thank you so much, the Bold Moves Radio, for hosting me today in this show, Prudent Woman. I am honored to be in this platform today. Allow me to greet the audience today, our listeners, our viewers, and the followers of Bold Moves Radio. My name is Rosemary Mashele. As it's been indicated, I am an environmental assessment practitioner by profession. I am glad today to come to be talking in this show along the environment and the issues of environment. I am in the line of profession. I hold a national diploma in environmental management, a BSc honors in environmental monitoring and modeling, and lately I have just graduated with an LLB degree. I am a registered member of the Environmental Assessment Practitioners Association of South Africa. We usually call it IPASA. It's a single registration body or single registration authority for IPS in South Africa so far. It started in 2012. I also serve in this association as an assessor for applications for registration. To answer to the question that what does an IP does? In a nutshell, the work of an IP is to manage human activities on the environment that we can manage at the end the impacts of those activities in the environment in order to achieve sustainable development. So what happens is lately we have two different types of IPs. We have IP private in terms of IPASA. These are those ones that we used to call environmental consultants, if you remember. These are private practitioners. They do business. And we also have IP officials, some of us who are working in the side of authorities or government. Our job is to regulate the implementation of these human activities or developments in the environment to ensure that at the end of the day, there is balance between environmental protection, economic and social economic issues and social issues and economic growth. I mean, so basically that's what an IP does to manage the environment. The private IP comes in the side of business, practicing their business, and official IPs are on the side of authorities.
Wow. I'm sure you, just like myself, looking forward to hearing from this wonderful woman, because she's not coming to us as just says Rosemary, but she's coming to us as someone who is certified to talk on the concept that we're going to be talking about, the environment. And I love something that you say, says Rosemary, because that's what in my opening I was talking about, to say, as human beings, as responsible people, as prudent women, we want to live an environment that our children will be able to live in. So as you say, you are managing the balance between social and economic issues, because if we are not careful as human beings, I would like to believe we can damage our environment at the expense of economic benefit, wanting to make more money, wanting to, have more at this point in time. But then understanding the environment, there's always need to be that equilibrium that is brought about. But someone may be asking, says Rosemary, amongst our listeners now and viewers, and I see a lot of them. I see bosses Doris Nuku, Mama Tsakani Mabasa, says Petunia Matebula, Mama Pumla Mabasa. I see all of them, and some of them are asking themselves, when they talk about the environment, maybe that's where we should start from. What is it that we are saying? When you talk about the environment, what are you referring to?
Okay, says Roland. In simple terms, environment means the surroundings within which human exist. What surrounds us? We're talking of the atmosphere, for example. We're talking of the land. We're talking of our waters, our water resources. In the atmosphere, we find the air we breathe is part of the atmosphere. The sunlight, that is a source of our energy today in our everyday life. In the land, we find our microorganisms, the minerals that we use every day, the plants, the animals, the metals, the soil. And while in water, we find the water itself that we use for consumption. We also find aquatic life in water. So in a nutshell, that's what I can say environment is. It's our surroundings. You can just simply look around you and you see the environment.
And yes, of course, when we look around ourselves, that's the environment that we're talking about. And someone who's Christian like myself, when we look around, we see the glory of God, because we see what the Lord has created around us, and which is beautiful. And it is a responsibility upon us to say, how are we looking after that which God has given us? You said something, when you said, look at the sun, is the atmosphere. So it's the source that we have energy from. Previously, we would have all said, no, no, with the sun, there's no, we don't get energy from the sun. But today we all know that you get energy from the sun because of the challenges that we're having with our electricity provision, because it has brought an opportunity for us to realize that there's an alternative source of energy. But of course, even as we continue with the conversation, I would like to encourage everyone who's watching us, please drop down your questions. If you have a question, this is a session where it's a topic which is not usually spoken about. But today, as Prudent Women, we're bringing it along to you because we say, being prudent women, we want to be responsible in any of our actions. So we do not want to leave other areas behind. And we realize that this area of environment is very, very important. You'll agree with me that currently, as we sit in South Africa, we are now starting to see the impact of our actions on the environment. But it may not be enough. That's why we're having shows like this. That's Rosemary. We said, in my opening, I said, this month of June, it's a month where globally we bring along environmental awareness. Maybe just for you to tell us as an environmental person, why do you think it's important to bring along this type of awareness?
Okay, maybe to answer that question, says RHULANI, let's look at the importance of the environment so that we may understand why do we need to be talking about environment? Why do we need to make people aware about the environment and what it brings to their lives in every day that we are living? So our environment is so important that when you look at it, the environment is the provider of our basic necessities of life, if I may put it like that.
Yes.
It provides the basic necessities of life, and this means that we depend on the environment for our survival. And in turn, also the other parts of the environment as well, your plant species and animals, they also depend on this natural environment for their survival. So it is very important and crucial to our life. Think of the air we breathe, like I've already indicated. If we do not take care or protect the air or the atmosphere from the human activities that we conduct in order for us to be living, to be growing our economy, to be doing all these things that we are doing, imagine the consequences will be detrimental to the environment if we just do as we please. We talk of look at the water as a resource. We use water for consumption and other purposes. Again, if we do not take care of our water, if we just pollute as we please, environment and life will suffer.
Yes.
Water is also a habitat for our marine, for our aquatic life. So, which means also the aquatic life that we also depend on for our survival as well as people. Recently in April, to give an example, at Hartepies Dam here in South Africa, many fish species died due to water pollution here in South Africa. Can you imagine if people are to eat the fish from the same source of water, what will happen to our health? So it's crucial to manage the environment and protect it. In the land and also the soil, we use the soil and the land for our food production, for example. We build our structures, our infrastructures, our houses on the land. And again, on the land, like I indicated before, we find our minerals, we find our metals. The plants that we have in our homes or even in our forests, they have got several purposes. We get our medicinal herbs from them. We get shades from plants or trees. We get wind breaks from our trees. We get even food we get from our trees. And some of the things that we enjoy in our homes, your furniture, for example, they come from our trees. The papers that we use every day, they come from our trees. In a nutshell, that was what I can say in indication of how important the environment is. That is why the government itself has taken it upon itself to pass laws to pass legislation that govern our activities in the environment, so that at the end of the day, we don't just do as we please without thinking of the future generations that you mentioned earlier on. We need to be generational about everything that we are doing. So there are laws in South Africa. For example, the Constitution itself, as the highest law of the country, makes provision for the protection of the environment. And in giving effect of the Constitution itself, other pieces of legislation were enacted. We talk of the National Environmental Management Act, the National Environmental Waste Act, the National Environmental Biodiversity Act, and many other acts, your municipal bylaws and environmental impact assessment regulations. Those are the pieces of legislation that the government saw it fit that if we can have this legislation so that we can be able to regulate these activities that we enjoy so much, that because they benefit us economically and in other ways. But at the same time, we need not to neglect what the environment is giving to us. At the end of the day, we need to save it for our children and for our great grandchildren.
Wow. To all our listeners and our viewers, I trust that by now you understand the importance of the environment. Without us looking after the environment, there's nothing that we can look forward to. So if today we are complaining of the environment not being able to predict it, it means we can attribute it to the actions of us, humankind. That's what I would like to believe. I would like us to go on an ad break. Says Rosemary, when we come back, I wish for you to talk to us about the impact or what is expected from the corporate. You spoke about the economic benefits that we derive from the environment. So I would like us to talk on what economically, what we do to the environment, and what will be the responsibility, most especially of business, even before we go to us as individuals, understanding that as prudent women, we have those who are entrepreneurs amongst us, we have those who hold positions of authority within the corporate sector. So I would like us to go on an ad break. We'll be right back with you. You are listening to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself. I am RHULANI BALOYI. We come to you every Sunday from 4 o'clock up until 5 o'clock. Today, I'm not alone in the studio. I have with me Rosemary Mashele. She's an environmental assessment practitioner. We are talking on the importance of the environment, even as we bring awareness during the month of June, where awareness is created around the importance of the environment. Today, as we continue with the session, says Rosemary, before we went on an ad break, I said, when we come back, let us talk on the impact that corporate has on the environment. I'm aware that amongst our listeners, we have entrepreneurs who may be here. You know, you spoke about the balance. And someone may have always had a problem to say, I have an idea of creating jobs. And we are told time and again that we must create jobs. But when I want to bring in this idea, when I want to start the business, I'm told about a specific elephant, which is called an impact assessment, environmental impact assessment, an EIA. We all do not want to hear about that because, you know, when you do not know what is the importance of something, it's simpler for you to say, it's taking my time. They said we must create jobs. Why don't they just let me create jobs? And they're asking me to do this process, which takes long. So maybe it says, Rosemary, you can talk to us about it. Explain to us what is the importance of an environmental impact assessment before one can start a certain business.
Okay, thanks, RHULANI. You will remember I mentioned earlier on that there are laws in South Africa that are developed in order for us to be able to manage, or they help us to manage the impacts of our development on the environment. It is by law that EIAs, the environmental impact assessment, must be conducted in the first place. It is not just anyone deciding about EIAs. It is by law that they must be conducted and approvals be obtained prior to commencement of certain human activities. Not all activities, but it's selected activities depending on their extent and the extent. I'm talking about the thresholds and the sizes and the throughputs and so on, and the sensitivities of the environment where such projects or development or activities will be undertaken. So when we talk of environmental impact assessment, the EIA, it is a tool used to assess the potential impact of these projects that we tend to do in the environment, of these activities. Like you mentioned, the entrepreneurs wanting to venture into business. This tool help us to assess potential impact. Like I said, it should happen before the implementation of the project. More often than not, people are not informed, or they don't know, they're not privy to this information that they need to apply before. But the government is doing awareness like this one today. At least we will know at the end of the day, because not all activities that we are doing, not all projects that we propose to do in our environment, we should just do them, like I said. So we talk of managing or assessing those impacts using this tool EIA, and we manage, or we assess, investigate the potential impact of our project. When I talk of potential impacts, I refer to both positive and negative. And we must remember that we only not look at the natural environment, like how God created everything. Like I indicated, we look at people as well, the social part of the environment, the social part of people. We look at the economic growth and try to find the balance between all these three wings, if I may put it like that. So EIA help us, or helps even entrepreneurs to know the impact of their businesses on the environment, if ever they are going to do those pollutions that I indicated earlier on, to say that if we do not take care of our environment, we will suffer. We will create your air pollution, your land pollution, your water pollution, and so on. And there are consequences for such kind of activities. It's quite a process. It's not only about investigating the impact on the environment. It involves even looking at the needs of the people in the area, because you might find that a municipality, for example, is proposing to give people a road, but in actual fact, the people in that area, they are not in need of a road, but instead they need something else. They need water, for example. So it looks at need and desirabilities of activities as well. It looks at specialist studies, that the studies that can form part of the information to be gathered. So when we talk of specialist studies, the IP private go all out to gather information and even seek advices or employ other specialists to give information regarding the project itself, regarding the environment itself, the sensitivities of the site, how the site is, what it contains, whether it's considered as a high sensitive area that we cannot compromise it for development or for other things, or whether even if we can compromise it, but the mitigation measures that are being proposed for such a development, they can at the end of the day be able to reduce the impact to an acceptable level, the environmental impact to an acceptable level, while we are considering issues that are affecting people, while we are considering issues that are affecting the economic growth. So it also involves undertaking public participation in the process. People get to be notified, people get to get involved and give their views, and if ever they have concerns, they raise those concerns and they get to be addressed, and everything that they are saying about the development or the environment itself, it gets to be considered before a decision can be taken, before authorities can say, okay, we are fine with this development, it can go ahead, or before they can say, having looked at economic issues, having looked at social issues, having looked at natural issues, we cannot allow this development to go ahead. So EIA is about managing the impact of the businesses that we do every day in the environment.
Wow, that's a mouthful, says Rosemary. Thank you so much. I would like to believe everyone who's listening to us this afternoon, they now know and understand why is it important to do an EIA. So none of us will want to do a business without understanding or without finding out how you can minimize the impact that one will have on the business.
Yeah. Maybe to add something, Sister RHULANI, before we can continue. Usually entrepreneurs get discouraged about EIAs because they get to know about it at a later stage when they are ready to start with everything. So information like this tells us to say, or awarenesses that we always have, prepares us to say that from the inception of a project in somebody's mind, that's where you need to be checking around, what is it that I will be required? EIA, it's part of planning of everything from the beginning. So as soon as you have an idea, you have a piece of land, you have an idea of a kind of business that you want to do, before you can even appoint the private IP, because like I indicated, not everyone does what we are doing or what the private IP does, the environmental consultant, because it's a specialized kind of work. If you are an individual or you are a company, you cannot just apply to the department on your own. You need to employ services of private IP. But what I'm saying is that during planning, at the earliest stages of your planning, you need to inquire. Inquiring, you don't need to be employing services of anyone or a private IP. You can inquire straight with environmental departments. They will be able to advise you to say, with this idea in this specific area, you trigger listed activities in terms of our laws. Therefore, you will need an EIA or not. Or if you trigger listed activities, you need to follow this kind of a process, because there are two different processes. There's a basic assessment process and there's a full scoping and EIA process. The full scoping and EIA process is for those kind of activities that, when you look at it in terms of their extent, they are very, very big and they occupy a very big space, your 20 hectares and above of land. And the impacts, yes, they may be known, but most of them are not known. They still need to be investigated further and involving specialist studies. The process for basic assessment, that one is simple, because even the name says basic. You just fill in information. It's a set of questionnaire. It's for those activities that, in terms of the size, they are not big, and in terms of the complexity, they are not a complex project. Their impacts are even known. You can simply come up with mitigation measures depending on how the proposed site looks like, or what it has in it.
That's a mouthful.
What I wanted to add.
It's a mouthful, and you've answered quite a number of questions that I see on the platform around the EIAs. And thank you so much, Sis Rosemary, for joining us. and for coming through and sharing the knowledge that you have with us. I would like us to go on an ad break. When we come back, now let us look at us as individuals. So let us go on an ad break. We'll be right back with you.
Are you ready for the ultimate dietary powerhouse? Look no further than Masana Dietitian's Nutro Boost. Our scientifically formulated low GI food is designed to give you the boost you need to fuel your body and reach your health goals. With Nutro Boost, you have the flexibility to enjoy it as a high fiber cereal or a satisfying shake. Simply mix it with water and indulge in the mouth-watering flavors that we have to offer. But that's not all. NutriBoost is packed with essential nutrients that are beneficial for your overall well-being. Enriched with 20 immune-boosting vitamins and minerals, it's a convenient and effective way to support your immune system. And here's the best part. NutriBoost is gluten-free, egg-free, and high in omega-3, making it suitable for those with dietary restrictions or allergies. Need an energy boost? NutriBoost has you covered. It's high in energy and protein, providing you with the fuel you need to power through your day. Whether it's a busy morning or an intense workout session, say goodbye to midday slumps and hello to sustained energy with NutriBoost. Try it today and experience the difference. For orders or to become a distributor, contact us on the following details.
Welcome back. You are with us on Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI.
Mrs. Baloyi, are you there?
I'm back. I am here. I hope you are able to hear me.
It looks like we've
Mrs.
lost
Mashele?
her. Yes, Mrs. Baloyi. Mrs.
Mrs.
Baloyi?
Mashele?
Mrs. Baloyi? I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Mrs. Mashele?
Hello? Hello?
Mrs. Mashele?
I can hear you, Mrs. Baloyi.
Can you hear me? But I know Mrs. Mashele is trying to log right back with us. As we continue with the show, we are talking on the importance of the environment. We are saying let us take care of the environment so that it can take care of us. And above all other things, it's for us to take care of the environment so that we can live a better environment for our children. I see Mrs. Mashele is right back here. Sorry about that, Mrs. Mashele. It seems we were kicked off. And our apologies to our listeners and our viewers. We are back with you. Mrs. Mashele, let us talk on the impact that us as individuals, we have on the environment. Can you hear me, Mrs. Mashele?
I can hear you now. You were breaking.
Please go ahead. Let us talk on the impact that we have as individuals or as households on the environment.
Okay. As individuals in our households, it's also our responsibility to take care of the environment. In addressing this question, allow me to use examples. Number one, let's talk of our sewerage systems. Nowadays, in our villages, back in our homes, as we try to improve our lives, I realize we tend to build our own sewer systems in the form of trenches. What I've seen or what I've observed happening is that these trenches, they are not properly done to start with, because they don't have the lining on their base, on the basement. They are not lined to prevent pollution from seeping into the underground waters. Usually they put in, instead of lining them or putting a protective layer, they put rocks and then cover the top, connect the pipes, then they are good to go. That's a dangerous and very detrimental way of doing our sewer system, because like I said, if there are no linings, it's easy for the contents there to seep in and pollute our groundwaters. So what it is our responsibility as individuals or as households to make sure that we check and ask around of proper septic tanks that contains the proper lining, that even if our sewer system are full, the seeping won't happen, and therefore we won't have pollution of underground from our systems, our sewerage systems. So that's one other thing that we can do to try and protect our environment at the household level. Another example that I can give, or maybe while I'm still at the sewerage system, again, other than the sewerage system, at the back of our houses as well, we also put our bowls. We depend on bowls mostly because there is no water supply from our municipalities in most cases. So imagine when the trenches are built in an unsafe way like that, and next door there is a borehole extracting water for consumption, for example, or for other use, or it can be crop irrigation or whatever. Imagine if we are extracting the water with all those pollutants. It is our responsibility again to make sure that if we are using bowls, we test these waters before consumption, so that we know the quality of the water that we are drinking. And in my observations, that's not something that we are practicing in our household. And at the end of the day, we are exposed to this pollution or these pollutants that we find in the water system because of these improper storage systems that we are using ourselves. So can you imagine the danger that we are facing? Allow me also to mention something around littering. We find in our roads, in our streets, or everywhere we find ourselves, we just litter as people the way we want. You find our plastic bottles, our cans, our papers, everything. And at the rate that we are doing littering, those things during rainy seasons, they find themselves in our drainages, in our draining system. And what happens is that they block the system. And when our systems are blocked, again, during that time, we suffer the consequences of such actions, because there will be floodings. Our roads will be flooded, hence we will have so many accidents and people die during a rainy season because of flooding. Sometimes it's not maybe our stormwater channels are incorrect or are not properly done. It's also because of our irresponsible way of doing things. And one other thing that I can
Yes, I wanted to say, when you were talking on us being irresponsible and the actions coming back to us, I wanted to bring in something that is currently being talked about, the cholera issue that we're having. And with all that we're hearing from the authorities saying, no, they've tested their water treatment plants. And I'm not saying what I'm saying, it's exactly what has happened, because I have not been part of the research or the investigations. But what you are saying also makes sense, because we tend to want to shift the responsibility to the authorities and forget that the responsibility starts with us. Because you've just spoken about drilling a borehole in your yard when next door there's a toilet which did not meet the requirements of the health or environmental practitioners to say a pit toilet must be this and this and this, the lining and a whole lot of things, so that we don't contaminate the water table. And because we are human, and again, I would like to believe it's because we do not know. But everyone who's listening to us today here will now understand that those things are very important. So you will not think it's all about enforcement, it's all about regulations from government. You will understand that the regulations are there because they want to protect us. And talking on the issue of accidents when it's raining, we tend to have a lot of accidents. I just want to reiterate on what she spoke about. We have a lot of accidents, especially in your towns, your cities, where there's congestion when it's raining. And you know what is the cause of that? This one I can talk on it because I work for the local authority. It's because we allow the mechanics to fix our vehicles on the road. and they take the oil and spill it on the road. And when it rains, it's slippery. So when I apply the brakes, the car does not stop there and there as the manufacturer has meant it to be, but it slips through and causes an accident. So you can see, beyond even us affecting the environment and not handing over a better environment for our children, but we are even causing damage to ourselves, says Rosemary. And talking on that issue of cholera, that issue of the bowls, I would like to believe, I know you still have a lot to talk about, but time is not on our side. And as we always say, this is just to spark the conversation, and the Prudent Woman will go and look for more information. But I want us to now look at the diseases that are caused by our actions, most especially on the environment. Just for you to just mention a few so that we have a clue as we go and make our research.
Okay, to mention but few, we already spoke of cholera. It's a waterborne kind of a disease with typhoid and other water-related, water pollution-related diseases. It will be your malaria, because mosquitoes thrives in water as well, and polio. The vaginal infection as well for us women from using or bathing with dirty water, your likes of bilharzia, and which also causes vaginal bleeding and pain during sex. From the air pollution, we get to have your respiratory kind of diseases or respiratory tract related diseases like your asthma, your pneumonia, your bronchitis due to lung being damaged, and also allergies as well. And at the high exposure of certain pollutants like your dioxins and additives from these oils, from this pollution that we are emitting, we may even have or face such what we call reproductive and growth impairments at high level of those exposures of things like your mercury and your lead, which are part of the things that we use in our everyday life.
So, says Rosemary, time is not on our side. I realize that this topic, environment, it's packed. There's a lot that we ought to learn about. I invite you, Prudent Woman, please go and read through, acquaint yourself on how you can be a responsible citizen, responsible entrepreneur to make sure that we hand over a better environment. Moving right along, says Rosemary, when we talk about waste disposal, because I think waste management, it has got more impact on the environment than a whole lot of other things, activities that us as human we engaged on. What can you advise, more especially in a household environment, what can you advise in terms of waste disposal?
Okay, it is true that waste is one of the major problems that we have, but there are solutions to that. How we manage our waste from the household. Let's normalize a reusing of some of the things that we can reuse from our houses. Things like the waste that are we call them the non-biodegradable waste. Those things that they don't break easily on land or when they are mixed with other things, they don't just perish, they take long time. So those are the recyclable kind of waste that we can reuse. Our bottles of waters, our glasses, our there's a lot of them that can use some kind of what you call electric appliances. They can be converted to something else if they are at the stage where maybe you are no longer using them. So we can recycle waste. We can separate waste to start with from our household, to say that this we can dispose of, but this we can reuse and this we can recycle. So that is able to reduce, like you said, waste takes up a lot of space if we are to dispose of everything. And at the end of the day, we won't have space to do a whole lot of things. And besides that, if we dispose them the way we produce them, we will have serious problems again of pollution, of your land pollution. And things like your plastic, they take time to get away. You can have a plastic for 500 years lying down underground, and with high temperatures and other things, chemical reactions, those plastics, they release a certain toxic element which can find their ways on the soil that we are supposed to produce food, or on our waters, or even on our plants. You get surprised, you are planting plants for food production, they don't come all right, or you don't get what you expect to get. You understand? So waste separation. Okay.
Yes, Sis Rosemary, I hear you. You say in terms of waste disposal, we must try to see if we cannot reuse, if we cannot recycle. And as we dispose, we must dispose responsibly. And this Prudent Woman, to me, it says, when you go for that shopping trip, when they ask you, do you want a plastic bag? Most of us, we do not understand why out of the blue they started selling plastic bag. It was a deterrent. They were trying to make us not to want to buy it. But unfortunately, because we don't have enough resources, so there's not enough manpower to educate the nation on why that legislation came about, but it is in platforms like this that we are taught. So it means when you go responsibly, you will say, I don't want the plastic, because you know your impact, that activity that you will have undertaken can be in existence for the next 500. Our landfills are filled up. We no longer have enough space to dispose of, because it's not degradable immediately. Imagine 500 years. How many years am I expecting to be alive? I'm expecting my bad actions to remain for the next 500 years. That cannot be. Prudent Woman, today we have learned a new thing. We're going to change. Says Rosemary, as we draw close to the end of the show, what's very important is for the future. How can we make sure that we teach our children how to take care of the environment?
Fortunately, Mrs. Baloyi, in our schools these days, there are subjects around those things. But with that said, it doesn't mean that we should not teach our children in our households. It's also important for them to hear these things being taught by us, so that they understand that at school it's not only about them having taught and get to pass their exams, for example. It's important even for their lives and even for the future generation life, so that we can, at the end of the day, we are able to all together manage this impact that we are talking about.
Oh, time is not on our side, but I would like to pose this question that a Prudent Woman has posted on the platform from Says Chichi. She's saying, what will I have to do if I realize after this session that I have undertaken a development without an EIA, but I realized that it was important for me to have done one? What is it that I should do?
Okay. The unfortunate part of it is that you are on the other side of the law. You are non-compliant. You have committed a criminal offense, if I may put it there. That it's an environmental crime, but it doesn't end there. There are avenues wherein you can rectify what you have done illegally and try and legalize everything. But okay, you can apply. There is what we call a rectification process. For example, you can apply to be rectified. It's a process. It involves, unfortunately, fining of you get fined. And at the end of the day, it doesn't guarantee that you will be given a positive response or an environmental authorization at the end of the day. You may be granted one to continue, but there is also a chance that you can be told to demolish, if it's a building or if it's a business, to demolish and rehabilitate the environment to back to the state it was, or almost the state it was. So there are consequences of doing projects that are listed to be going through EIAs without having done those EIAs. and obtaining an environmental authorization. You can even get a fine of up to 5 million, and imprisonment, or either way, or both of them. So it depends on what has actually transpired at the end of the day. So when you apply, you get to be fined. Even when you are fined and pay, you still don't guarantee that you will have what you want at the end of the day. So it's wise to do the right thing from the beginning.
Yes, but not having done the right thing and getting to know that you should have done something, even though you know you will be fined, but we should understand, when she talks about imprisonment, with what she has been telling us about what the environment can do to us, you'll realize that there is a just cause why you have to be fined, because you are likely to be causing life-threatening disease to other human beings by your negligence. So it says, as prudent women, we need to be intentional about our actions. There is no way you can start something without you going out and looking for information. And every Sunday as we come to you, we always say, what's important is for you to have information so that you can respond in the right way when that season comes. So we understand, says Chichi, the response is sort of like it's negative, but I think it's positive, because I better be fined than for me to live consciously knowing that that community that is dying, it is because of my negligence. It is because of my non-compliance. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined us. I see people have got questions and they're excited, says Rosemary, for having brought to them this awareness. Yes, it was an awareness. We cannot have enough time to talk on such a very important topic for more than that requires for us to talk on it in less than an hour. But we would like to say thank you. We appreciate all that you have taught us. And I would like to invite you, as you bid our guests farewell, what is it that you want to leave with us as we continue in the month of June? And I know Prudent Women will be studying, reading documents on what the environment is all about.
Okay, thanks, Sis RHULANI. And maybe what I can emphasize is that from everything that we have spoken about today, it is clear that we ought to take care of our environment. We don't have a choice, in fact, because the truth is nature can survive without us. But
Yes.
Can we survive without nature? And the answer is no. Look around you and see, it's nature, it's everything that we are enjoying is from the natural environment. So we ought to protect it for both our benefit and the future generations' benefit. Thank you so much for having me today in this show.
Thank you so much, Sis Rosemary. It is us as Prudent Woman team that would like to say thank you for sharing your knowledge, the information that you have shared. It's a mouthful, and we would have loved to give more to our listeners and our viewers, but time is not on our side. And we would like to say thank you for all of you who have joined us, those who are on Bold Moves Radio, on Facebook and on YouTube. Please continue to follow us. Go and subscribe on YouTube so that you do not miss anything that comes in from Bold Moves Radio. As we say bye now, at 5:30, we have a wonderful show that is starting from today, the Living Word Outreach Program with Pastor Frida Matebula. She will be right here in this platform. So I would just like to say to all of you, just go and make yourself a cup of coffee and come back and listen to her. It's a wonderful program. It's an empowering program when you talk of the Word of God. And as we continue in the week, on Monday up until Friday, during the week, 6 o'clock, we have a prayer session, powerful, with wonderful men of God, different gifts. They are talking to us, encouraging us, and helping us to pray for our nation, pray for our children, pray for the body of Christ. So please come join us every morning, 6 o'clock up until 6:30. And on Tuesday, we have the African experience. Wow, they bring along different experiences for us to love our nation, to love our continent, Africa. And on Thursday, we have Love SA. They share with us, they host different men and women who come through, who have done something to show that they love our beautiful country, South Africa. So Bold Moves Radio is packed with wonderful programs. Please continue to watch the programs. And if you have not subscribed, please go and subscribe. If you are watching us on Facebook and you are not friends with us, please just send through your friend request. We are there to welcome you because we do not want you to lose anything. And we welcome all your comments as you bring them through. We would like to bring in something that is empowering to you. And to all the Prudent women, any topic that you wish for us to handle, any information that you want to share with our Prudent woman, you are welcome. You can be in contact with us through the Bold Moves Radio Facebook page and the YouTube page, but you can also send me, the Prudent woman, a WhatsApp message on 081-358-8745. Yes, of course, we've come to the end of our program and we will not be here. The show will not have been here if it was not for DJ Messi, our technical producers, brothers, and of course, our executive producer, Pastor Strike Mangani. We'd like to say thank you. We will be with you next week, same time, same place. But go and grab the cup of coffee and tune in at 5:30 with Pastor Frida Matebula. Have a blessed week ahead.
Thank you.
Streaming 24/7. 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana, oh Afrika nakupenda sana.